In 2013, on the Numbeo Quality of Life Index by country, Canada was rated 5th in the world. In 2024, we were ranked 33rd in the world, just slightly edging out Israel, and several spaces down in the list from Saudi Arabia. Things are going great! What the fuck is O-Man? Number 6? No one's ever heard of O-Man. You can't rate a country that's got like fucking 5 people and a dog. What are you talking about? Anyway, this video, you know, is gonna be a little different from the thing that I normally do on this channel. You know, a lot of the time it's fun times laughing at crazy people or whatever, you know, laughing at the less fortunate, as we do here on the Dead Wing Dork channel, where we hate all women and minorities. Although I guess, come to think of it, you know, laughing at Canada and how much of an embarrassment it is on the world stage, we are still the less fortunate. Yeah, but still not usually the type of video I would make on this channel, but I'm planning to make some more things like this in the future, and frankly, what's scarier for spooky October than the absolute state of Canada right now? Now, I hear Americans complaining all the time about how their country is terrible, how Le Orange Man is making them such an embarrassment on the world stage, how everything is getting worse for Americans. But the difference, I'd say, is the US is listed 15th, whereas Canada is fucking fighting off Saudi Arabia in Genocide City Zone, fucking hand over fist, for God's sakes. Settle down, Americans. The world doesn't revolve around you. For this video alone, the world revolves entirely around us, goddammit. Filthy Canadians like me. Why is the Canadian dollar getting worse, but the USD still strong despite the trade war? Hi. From a regular citizen point of view, everyone is now against the USA and putting tariffs and everything. Most people around the globe support Canadians and buy Canadians' products to show that. I'm wondering why the Canadian dollar is still getting lower and lower, while in reality, USD should be hit harder. No?
Locked post, new comments can't be posted.
New comments cannot be posted and votes cannot be cast.
Stop asking questions!
Now, we got a big video ahead of us. We got lots of topics to cover. This one will probably take a little while. A lot of this stuff's probably gonna have to get condensed into just like montage form, because there's just so much wrong with Canada now, and so many different categories, that none of our politicians are incentivized to or willing to in any way address, and really only seems to be getting worse and worse. But yes, some of the topics in this video are gonna get quite dark. We're gonna be talking about some of the unfortunate crime stuff that's been happening here. We're gonna be talking about some of the trucking-related crisis that's going on here, and I'm not talking about the fucking Freedom Train from a couple years ago. And of course, we're gonna be talking about MAID, which if you haven't heard of that, I'm sorry to bring this to you. This is gonna be really depressing. But don't worry, I have an entire section about pooping, too. There's a pooping section. It can't be all bad. There's a pooping section. I guess the best way to start out a video like this is to talk about the sort of bullshit war. I guess you could call it a culture war, frankly. That has begun between Canada and the United States. You see, the United States decided to elect an evil, evil fascist man. And so that pretty much just gave Canada carte blanche to just get away with any terrible shit they want to get away with. Because at least we aren't Trump, guys, am I right? You'll see these Canadians going around wearing the MAGA hat, but it says, "Canada is not for sale." As if anybody would want to buy us if they fucking could. Come on now. Now here's a fucking hat for you, bitches. Yeah, I finally decided to buy a Medicare hat. You know, it was time, I think. So anyway, yeah, Canada's been engaged in this frankly ridiculous fucking war. There's a slogan that we have now, because all of our lives are slogans now. You know, you wake up in the morning, you drink your coffee, you look at your Twitter, you go, oh, that's the new slogan I'm supposed to support or all my friends will hate me. And the slogan for Canada is elbows up, which I find offensive. I mean, come on. Apparently it's some kind of fucking hockey term. I guess it's like when you get in a fight in hockey, you know, you hold up your elbows and you don't... I don't know, it's really stupid. It's really stupid. I remember when the talk started, you know, with Trump, when he was getting inaugurated. Around that time, he was talking about annexing Canada and all this stuff. And I remember feeling like, wait, you can't do that. This is our country, goddammit! And slowly over the course of time, I started to really question what I'm fighting for, you know? Oh yeah, it's our country. Is it? Is it? Well, we'll get into whose country it might actually be, but the attempt at fostering patriotism in Canada has worked on most people, I guess. You know, if you're well-to-do and you live in Vancouver and your job is some kind of bullshit diversity officer or whatever, you probably don't think there's much of a problem with the country, honestly. I mean, things seem to be going great for you if you're in that position. But if you're like a normal person, you know, I just don't know how well the propaganda's working. It's getting a lot harder to not notice. Speaking of noticing, let's get right into it. Without any further ado, let's get into our first topic, which will be crime and horrible murder. Hey, I warned you that this video would be dark at parts.
Edmonton police say a former daycare worker facing sexual assault charges has fled the country. The Edmonton Police Service says it's working to bring Dilpreet Singh Chawla back to Canada. He's wanted on Canada-wide arrest warrants for sexual assault and sexual interference offenses. Earlier this month, a mother told CTV News her child was abused at Wilbray Academy Mill Creek Daycare. Court documents show 3 additional charges have been laid. Chawla was an educator at the daycare for several years.
Oh no. Nova Scotia man abused 300 plus kids and got out on bail within hours. Justice Minister Sean Fraser goes on to say adopting jail, not bail legislation for such predators will not keep Canadians safe from crime. Listen, putting criminals in jails will not keep anybody safe, okay? That's defeatist thinking. When did the Canadian justice system adopt the policy of I can fix him? 14-year-old boy charged with first-degree murder and fatal stabbing of elderly Pickering woman. Police told reporters Thursday that the victim was outside her home on Lynn Heights Drive when she was approached by a male they believed she did not know. After a brief interaction, the suspect stabbed the female in a sadistic and cowardly, unprovoked attack that was captured on video. Police said the family has asked investigators not to publicly identify the victim. And then in bold, large text, it says, he stood out. I remember seeing some social media shit, like, right after this happened, which, seemed to be going hard on the Andrew Tate-style misogyny fueled this young gamer's murder. And unfortunately, I have another headline here about an elderly woman being murdered by a teenage boy. Lady was just like packing groceries into her car. Boom, dead. So, things you can't do now in Canada without potentially being the target of a violent teenage murderer. Be near your home? Pack groceries into a car? No, it's going great. We're a great country. It's a great country. We got all of the negatives of living in fucking New York City with none of the positives, basically. Homeless man dies after violent hammer attack spree in downtown Toronto. 2 suspects charged, including 12-year-old boy. What the fuck are we, Russia? So just keep in mind when we get into some of the later stuff that's gonna be happening in this video, just keep in mind that the kids in particular are not okay. So this is now 3 stories in a row that feature violent murderers at the age of about 12 to 14 or so. If only there was some way of knowing what kind of cultural changes and changes to our education system and how we're raising our kids might have occurred in the last decade or so, you know? What could have got these boys, these young kids? It must be Andrew Tate. You know what it is? It must be video games. I'm betting it's video games because I don't really want to have to investigate deeply, you know, what it might actually be that's causing this to happen. It's gotta be the games. So now here you got a couple of interesting articles back to back. Well, we're gonna slightly change the pace of what's been going on. We're moving on from little kids murdering elderly people to home invasions. Ontario father of 4 had confronted suspects in fatal home invasion. Police said on August 31st, shortly before 1 a.m., the suspects, one carrying a gun, forced their way into the home through the back door. This man was shot in front of his family members in this home invasion by criminals who had a gun. Now, it's obviously a shame what happened to this guy, but don't worry, if he had survived, things still would have been shit and terrible. Ontario man charged after confronting intruder inside home, allegedly used knife, court docs say. So, you know, you got the violent criminals who don't really give a shit about the law and are just gonna have guns anyway, and they'll be let out within days of doing some horrible violent shit and abusing somebody's trust and stealing their car, beating the fuck out of them, stealing their shit, breaking into their home, ruining their ability to ever feel safe ever again. Even in a situation where someone doesn't get horribly murdered in front of their family members, you might just never be able to feel secure in your own fucking home again. Because it's also illegal for you to defend yourself. This guy just tried to protect himself from being fucking murdered in a home invasion, and now he's being charged with aggravated assault because he endangered the life of this upstanding citizen who just wanted to steal some of his shit. Come on. You don't even know that that guy was gonna kill you, dude. How dare you infringe upon that man's rights to break into your home and liberate you of your shit. We'll let these people out after doing horrible shit, and then we'll put the fucking guy that defended himself in his home in jail. Welcome to Canada. Oh my god, the alleged intruder in this one is named Breen. Oh no. Eyes on Breen, ladies and gentlemen. Joke country. I mean, it's a joke country. People are afraid to walk the fucking streets because you can't defend yourself. You certainly can't have a gun. You can't have any kind of knife. You can't even carry fucking mace. What are you supposed to do if some crazy guy just starts chasing after you in a fucking tunnel or something? Just run away? Apparently, we've absolutely decided to put the rights of the people that are endangering others' lives above the people whose lives are being endangered. Well, we got a little bit of a good news, bad news situation here for this next one, you see, because bad news, a Welland, Ontario trans woman raped a 3-year-old girl with a screwdriver to the point where the girl will be rendered nonverbal, possibly for the rest of her life. But good news, that person has been denied bail. It kind of feels like any crime of this nature should result in somebody being locked up for the rest of their natural life or put to death. But, you know, you take the good with the bad, I guess. You know, you take your victories where you can get them. Thank God this child rapist is not getting bail. Welcome to Canada. The Niagara Regional Police have begun a program called the 9 p.m. routine, where they're telling people to essentially get into a curfew situation because it's just so unsafe. And what are we gonna do? We're the police. We're not, like, supposed to enforce the law or anything. What am I saying? We have no laws. It kind of reminds me of a thing that happened a little while ago where they were telling people to just leave the keys to your car by the door so that if anybody breaks in, they won't have to kill you. That's how we do self-defense here in Canada. It's kind of like being told by the police to just lay down and think of England. All right. Well, that's enough horrible murder and crime and death and children killing elderly people and people not being able to defend themselves from the rampant wave of criminal, nightmarish, ghoulish nonsense that's been happening in Canada. Let's move on to how fucked we all are in a different way with jobs and the economy.
It's not a funny fiscal outlook. It's a really serious fiscal outlook. And we don't lightly use the word unsustainable, right? Unsustainable means you don't have the option of saying, maybe I'll wait a couple of years, I'll see how things go. It means if you don't change, this is done, right? So it's very serious.
Oh, we're really just fucked, aren't we? I mean, well, it's not that bad, you know, don't get your panties in a twist here. Our unemployment rate is only 7%. It's not so bad. It could be a lot higher than 7%. It could go up like 93% or something. That's not so bad. UN expert sounds alarm over contemporary forms of slavery in Canada. What do you mean? Tomoya Obokata, the Human Rights Council appointed special rapporteur on the global scourge of modern slavery, issued his statement at the end of a 14-day visit. He called on the Canadian government to intensify its efforts to safeguard workers' rights and offer a clear pathway to permanent residency for all migrants. Wow, it's almost like infusing your country with millions and millions of randos from around the entire fucking world, just so that Tim Hortons can have cheap labor and some white lady with problem glasses who works at a library can pat herself on the back about just how understanding and caring and loving and compassionate she is for all the minorities. You know, maybe that's a bad thing, actually. When you look into some of the shit that's happening with LMIAs and people coming into this country and spending fucking $40,000 so that they can work as indentured servants for McCain or whatever. Yeah, I mean, it's robbing Canadians of jobs, but let's be real here, it's also incredibly fucked up to do this to people. I implore you to consider that maybe bringing people in as essentially slave labor in some kind of grand fucking orchestrated scam that probably goes all the way to the top is probably not the best thing for those people either. No one is really winning with this situation. I understand some people are very upset by this and don't really care that much about the people that are coming here, but I'm asking you, person furiously typing up a comment about what a racist chud I am, do you really think this is fair to the people that are moving here? Do you think this is fine? Again, it's all in service of, well, mega giga richoids making more money, obviously, but also just these like out of the loop good boy Canadians that want to be progressive and want to change the world and make everybody happy, and our country is just so wonderful for everybody, and I love other cultures. And meanwhile, you're over here facilitating fucking slavery happening. Good for you.
Let me clear one thing today. Why they see people, for example, Indian, Paki, Iranian, not hiring Canadian people. They sell the LMIA for at least 30 to 40K. Can you afford that? Because you don't need to buy that thing. But most of the people who are studying here or coming on a tourist visa, they pay that money to employer to stay in this country and work for that company. So it's a profit for them. They show to the government they are paying for them $30 to $35 per hour. But in reality, it's totally different. On the paper, on the paycheck, they're showing they are paying that much money, but in reality, they're taking too much work from them. Like, you're getting a paycheck for 80 hours, but in reality, you're working 150, 160 hours in a 2 week. Like, you have no work-life balance. Suppose you work in the morning, they're gonna call you in the evening, hey, you have to come down. So they totally exploit you, and it's pretty frustrating for them too. Even they delay their paycheck sometime. Even sometimes they don't even bother to pay. The last thing, there is a problem with my community. I'm only gonna target the Indian people right here. They like to lick balls of their employer. I don't know, they have that kind of sick mentality. And even they have a valid work status to work in Canada. That's why they don't prefer Canadian employees, because you're gonna ask them so many questions. You're gonna work on a proper schedule. You're also gonna balance work life. And last, you're gonna treat them just as an employer, not as a god.
According to this whistleblower, Canadian Tire has let go of nearly 800 people in the last month. Some of these jobs are being sent overseas to India! Yay! Hey! When I was a kid and I was going to school, I lived in a location that was extremely Indian. Surrey, BC. It had Hindi or whatever, one of the 20,000 languages they have over there, on the street signs. And I was part of a poor family that lived in the basement of a guy who moved here a couple years before that. Everybody around me was Indian, and everybody but me had big houses. The only other white kid that I knew in school also lived in a basement underneath an Indian family. Now, if that wasn't an upbringing to set me up for the way my future would be as a Canadian, then I don't know what is. But I also remember a time a couple years ago when I lived in a different location in British Columbia. There was a cab company in town that had a lovely dispatch lady. I would call in, she would know that it was me just by the sound of my voice. She was kind of flirty a little bit. I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I almost had something going with a random lady who was the dispatcher for a cab company. I'm just saying. Anyway, yeah, then one day the dispatch thing went over to Pakistan. So the experience of calling a cab became ringing them up and then being asked brusquely, "Yeah, you want a cab?" You know, it was a very different experience. I just love being infused by other cultures like that. It was great. Now, some of you might be starting to pick up on a little bit of a pattern here. A lot of what we've been talking about seems to revolve around India and Indian people in particular. Now, I'm going to show you an image here of a Tim Hortons in Alberta, which has been closed by health and safety for reasons. Don't worry about what the reasons are. It might be uncomfortable to think about what the reasons might be. Don't worry about it. But do get excited for our pooping category in a little bit. Next up, I have a really cool video for you from Etobicoke near Toronto. It's basically a suburb of Toronto. And I would like to remind you that this is not India. Now, once again, I'm going to show you a video here. This time it's an NDP press conference in Manitoba. And again, I would like to remind you that this is in Canada, not India. Okay? Just keep that in mind. Is this guy like in a trance? Why does he sound like he's talking to us from the other side? Yeah, so that's Manitoba now, you know, totally normal thing happening in Manitoba. I'm sure this happened totally naturally, and it worked out that way. There's no mysterious machinations up above that facilitated this going on at all. Okay, I don't want to hear it. All right, this is just the way the chips fell, you know? Don't act like this is indicative of anything more than that. Come on now. Now, a lot of this video is going to be focused on Indians because it's a video about Canada and this is 2025. But don't worry, it's not just Indians. I got something for you Chinese folks too. How can the owner of 3 BC malls and a mansion not be a resident of Canada for tax purposes? Wei Hong Ruby Liu, who has acknowledged she was a leading member of business organizations in China created by the Communist Party to advance the government's agenda, now owns 3 shopping malls and a golf course in BC. Oh, I love when people in Parliament try to talk about the real estate crisis going on in Canada. We're not even getting into how fucked real estate is here, really. But, you know, you get these people, these elected fucking officials that go out there like chickens with their heads cut off. We don't know what's going on. We're trying our best here. I don't know why there's such a problem with real estate in Canada. You fucking know why, you lying, disingenuous cunts.
These people, they don't have no business harassing women, and it's over. We're not accepting plausible deniability anymore. Concerned Montrealers are speaking up here in Jarry Park after the recent rise of concerns regarding voyeurism at its public swimming pool. On Reddit, I saw about dozens of witnessing.
Pictured here a Canadian Redditor. Of course he would also be a Franchoid.
About harassment, about creeps following women during the night, during the day, in front of the pool.
Villeray-Saint-Michel Parc Extension Borough wrote in an email to City News,
Holy shit, this lady just had like an aneurysm and started diarrheaing from her mouth in the middle of her sentence.
Recently, many posts and comments from Montreal Reddit users have spoken out about similar experiences at Jarry Park and claim to have experienced alleged incidents of stalking, perverts, and peeping toms.
There was a lot of people complaining that people were snooping around, looking at them. It's not even just about Parc Jarry. It's as a whole, as a society, we're failing of like making more specifically men understand that catcalling in streets or like staring or like whistling at women is just wrong.
Now this is one of my favorite Canadianisms. You see this a lot in the news, and we'll get to the news in a little bit, but you see it a lot where, you know, there'll be some phenomenon going on where there's like just a fucking increase of like freaky creeps and rapists. And, you know, the news will report on it as, oh yeah, men just keep doing this shit. Ah, those dang men. What can be done about men? I guess the feminists were right. The feminists must have been right, guys. Yeah, you know, I'm sure it's just, men. I'm sure it's just men. Of all shapes and sizes and colors and creeds, I'm sure it's just a men problem. You know, off topic, but doesn't India still have a huge problem with marital rape being common? I'm just saying things now. I'm just, words are coming out and I'm not even thinking about what I'm saying. It's fine, don't worry about it. How it started versus how it's going. Oh dear, mortgages for newcomers to Canada. Feel settled faster. Let us help you buy your first home in Canada. Why newcomers love our mortgages. At RBC, mortgage options are available for newcomers with little to no Canadian employment or credit history, including some specialty programs with no minimum income required. We're here to help with your transition to Canadian life, whether you're a temporary foreign worker, a foreign income earner, a permanent resident on the path to employment, or have investment. You know, this is surely a thing that will make sure no one ever gets radicalized at all, is just making things 100 times easier for people who got here yesterday, as opposed to any person who was born in Canada is gonna have to fucking jump through all the hoops. I can't get a fucking mortgage. Most of you watching probably couldn't get a mortgage here if you wanted to. But, you know, if you got here yesterday, do you speak no English? Are you not even planning on staying here? Whatever, you can get a mortgage, bro. Don't worry about it. What real estate and housing crisis? You're full of shit. Remember that the people that are responsible for this happening are also the ones that claim that they're gonna do anything ever about homeless people. There's fucking tent cities being erected in front of Parliament, but, you know, hey, at least Baljinder can get a fucking home the day after he arrived. You know, this is not gonna lead to any kind of, resentment or anything like that. I couldn't believe it if that happened. That's nonsense. That's not gonna happen. Refugee families receive over $3,000 a month while Canadian seniors and vulnerable citizens struggle. So if you just arrive in Canada, you're getting $1,900 a month monthly allowance. You're getting an employment incentive of just under $1,000. You're getting nearly $2,000 for a child tax benefit. You're getting $500 a month extra for your housing top-up. You're even getting almost $10,000 for your one-time startup allowance. Meanwhile, people that actually are from Canada Old age security, you get $713 a month. Guaranteed income supplement gives you around $1,000 a month. Provincial social assistance, colloquially we could call this welfare, gets you around $300 to $600 a month. Man, you can't even live off of all of that. Even if you somehow got all of that as a single person, that would barely cover rent in most cities. When I was a kid, it still was more expensive to try and move to a city than it would be to live in some, outlying area, small town city nearby. For instance, St. Catharines might be a bit cheaper than Toronto, But at this point, it's practically impossible for people that are low income to move to a city, to live in a city. I'd also like to briefly just draw some attention right back to what they actually mean when they say refugees. You might be thinking they mean, oh, what about all those Ukrainian people that are moving here out of their war-torn, horrible home that they're living in? More than 3 years after relocating to Canada, Ukrainians say their lives remain in limbo. IRCC says Canada remains committed to supporting Ukrainians by providing a temporary safe haven. A Ukrainian family has been living in a North York apartment since the start of the war. 3 years later, their immigration status remains in limbo. All right, refugee doesn't actually mean what refugee means. My mistake. Refugee just means fleeing from a country that's not doing so good. Well, I gotta tell ya, our country's not doing so good, so probably stop coming here, Why don't you go to Oman? I hear they're really great. Now, on this note, I'd like to pivot us over into an adjacent, still relevant and related, but slightly different topic. The massive trucking crisis that's happening throughout Canada. You see, apparently a new facet of being culturally enriched in this beautiful, progressive society that we live in is people moving here, not knowing how to drive, or at the very least, not knowing how to drive in Canadian traffic, and getting fake driver's licenses so that they can drive giant tractor trailers on the freeway. I'm sure nothing at all bad could happen with this. Nothing! An Ontario court judge has dismissed hundreds of appeals of driving offense convictions after determining they were part of a paralegal's scheme to avoid penalties for his clients by filing a raft of sham legal challenges. In a pair of rulings released April 9th and August 14th, Justice Louis P. Strezos found that GTA paralegal Adeline B. Mokanu lodged more than 220 meritless appeals over the past 2 years for charges relating to speeding, disobeying traffic signs, and other provincial offenses under the Highway Traffic Act. The judge found that Mokanu never had the intention of advancing the appeals, all of which were submitted after the paralegal or his new market-based firm Ticket Justice entered guilty pleas on behalf of the defendants. Instead, Strezos determined the goal of the ploy, flagged by City of Toronto prosecutors, but which may have been active in other jurisdictions, was to drag out proceedings until 2 years after the date the driver was charged. That's the point after which provincial regulations dictate demerit points can no longer be applied to driving records. I'm sure that's just a one-time thing. It would be ridiculous to assume that something like that is happening more often than just that one case. Newcomers to Canada can become truck drivers after going through training that is entirely paid by our taxes.
We have recently partnered with the organization by the name of Achieve, and they have a program which has been launched by them to help out immigrants who have come to Canada. They also give some kind of funding ranging from $1,500 to $30,000. This program is partly funded by the Government of Canada for the Foreign Credential Recognition Program. Let's take the benefit as given by our government and get established into the trucking industry.
So, I mean, I think it's interesting to look at something like this and keep in mind the big trucking protest that happened a couple years ago. It made international news. And, you know, the Canadian government seems to have, and this is just my opinion, right? I feel, in my opinion, that the Canadian government maybe decided, you know, fuck those guys. Here's what we're gonna do, gang. Again, that's just my guess, you know, that's just me speculating. I don't have any proof that that's the, you know, what's been going down here, but I'm just saying, interesting timing, that's all I'm saying. Board orders deportation for trucker in horrific Humboldt Broncos crash. Jaskirat Singh Sidhu's lawyer has said the decision was a foregone conclusion. Oh man, we really fucked up. How many people are dead? Oh my god, what did he do? He just sped through a fucking stop sign and smashed into a bus? Oh my god, oh god! It is funny in a country that doesn't have a death penalty or any kind of real laws at all. The only real recourse we have in a situation like this is, well, you hated the country you came from so much, why don't you get back there? Crazy that it takes a bunch of people dying for anybody to ever be deported in Canada. Now, unfortunately, our next couple of stories here are going to be pretty depressing, as the death toll of innocent children and parents caught in the crosshairs of our wonderful, progressive, and loving country that accepts all comers and refugees rises 3 times, as a matter of fact. Not only do we have Navjeet Singh, an Indian truck driver who killed a 35-year-old mom and her 8-year-old daughter by running a stop sign. Hey, just like that other guy. But we also have Mahakdeep Singh, another truck driver from India, who collided with the Giraud family's vehicle while he was preoccupied by his fucking phone, unaware of the slowing vehicles in front of him. He killed a 7-year-old, a 3-year-old, and their 68-year-old grandmother. But we also have in Montreal, Quebec, Baljit Singh facing charges related to a commercial truck crash that killed an 11-year-old boy and a 42-year-old woman. Singh failed to slow down as he approached a work zone, crashing into 7 vehicles. 3 cases like this, and they're all named Singh. Boy, that's some cursed triplets right there. Unfortunate shit. Now, a bunch of children are dead and their families torn apart, but hey, I want you to consider something, alright? That might be bad, but some rich guy was probably able to save a few bucks by hiring those people. Despicable joke country. We live in a sham. We live in a fake society. Rest in peace to the victims. What a fucking atrocity. Holy shit. Okay, it's been dark, it's been bad, families are dying, it's very sad. Let's move on to the pooping category. Ontario woman claims visitors defecating in sand at Wasaga Beach. Oh, not Wasaga Beach, I love that place. I used to go to Sauble Beach as a kid, I remember it. It was right near Wasaga Beach. Wasaga was like the bigger one. Sauble was kind of like a more cool place for those that were in the know. I remember I stayed in this place in Sauble Beach, and they had like this, somebody left behind like this little toy Camaro, and it was like, you know, like 6 inches long or something. It wasn't like a Hot Wheel, but it was like a die-cast toy Camaro thing. Really cool. I loved that fucking thing as a kid. I totally stole that from that place, by the way. But anyway, yeah, now it's fast forward 25 years or whatever, and you know, people are just shitting on the beach now, so I'm tired of people saying the people who are pooping on the beach, that's what they do back home, she ranted. We are not back home, we are in Canada, Natty continued in the clip. As a local, I refuse to let my kids dig in the sand on Beach 1. How much of a chud do you have to be to have a problem with your kids playing with a little beach poop? Now, I mentioned earlier that I grew up in a place that was very Indian as a kid, and at least for a little while, we moved around a lot. So I got a good experience in a bunch of different locations, and when I was in the city, I guess, of Surrey, BC, you know, a lot of Indian people, very Indian location, and I did see a grandmother just fucking taking a dump on a path. I lived near this path that kind of wound through some parks and stuff, and it connected to the high school that was down the road, and yeah, this granny just fucking taking big fat dumps in the middle of the path. I don't know if I understand, you know, because it's like, you do live in Canada now. Like, I'm not even gonna judge you necessarily for doing that in India or whatever, but, you know, you live in a place that has plumbing now, so wouldn't you want to use the plumbing? I don't know. Maybe that's just me as a giant chud, assuming that people would use plumbing when they live in a civilized country, but that's my bad. You know, that's all that colonialism that I was infused with as a white kid in Canada, you know, telling me that people should use toilets. What do I know, really? Call me crazy, but if you move to a new country and you plan on living there and you continue to live the way that you did before you moved to that new country, why did you move to the new country? Kinda seems like you like it the way it used to be back in India or whatever. This video shows an Indian/Pakistani immigrant in Canada defecating in a Starbucks while eating. I mean, you can't fault the guy for multitasking here, come on. Here we have a lady who drives for Amazon delivery and just decided to take a big fat fucking dump all over someone's property after delivering their various knickknacks and goods. Seems like she went the extra mile with her delivery that day. She got them items they didn't even ask for. How nice of her. You know, when I mentioned that lady that I saw shitting in the path when I was a kid, I mean, at least she made the effort to make sure that she was, like, you know, out of the way of prying eyes. This guy's just doing it on someone's lawn. Video evidence surfaces in Brampton's Poopgate scandal. Oh my god, it's Brampton again, I can't believe it. Clearly showing a man taking a dump in front of Tim Hortons. Now, apparently this was like a bit of a controversial one because some liberal MP guy named Raj was denying that this happened, and, well, here it is. I like this guy too. He's busy, like, getting gas at the fucking gas station, you know? He's busy filling up his car's tank and emptying his own, I guess. It's taken me so long to discuss how fucked Canada is that it's now the next day. Hi everybody. Now, one of the things about this video is that I'm going to have to be very careful with how I edit it and what I choose to keep in. I don't personally think that anything that I'm saying in this video goes beyond the pale of what would be considered hate speech. The Canadian government, on the other hand, very different sensibilities than what I think. You see, while the framework of our entire country is melting down in front of us, Canada's government seems to be mostly concerned with what people have to say about it on the internet. Every 5 minutes on the state-sponsored news network, CBC, you get to hear another cool report about how Canada's cracking down against them hate speech. I don't know. I don't think it's probably that big of an issue. I'm sure there's hate speech happening. I'm sure there's horrible things being said about certain types of people. And, you know, people that say those types of horrible things, not my type of people, unless it's really funny. But there's been quite a lot of concern recently in the last couple years, and even more recently than that Canada is somewhat overstepping its bounds in regard to cracking down on hate speech. It seems to cast a bit of a wide net, you know? Of course you have stuff like Bill C-8, which has become a bit of a hot button talking point, you know? It claims to be, in its own words, respecting cybersecurity, amending the Telecommunications Act, and making consequential amendments to other acts. And it's one of these things that's written in vague enough language that they can kind of interpret it any way they want to. Some doomsayers seem to believe that this implies, you know, the worst possible thing that it could mean is definitely going to be what it means for every person. I don't know if it's gonna go exactly that far, but, you know, Canada's propensity for shifting the needle a little bit closer to North Korea is concerning. Security of Canadian telecommunications system, Minister's Order, 15.2. If there are reasonable grounds to believe that it is necessary to do so, to secure the Canadian telecommunications system against any threat, including that of interference, manipulation, disruption, or degradation, yada yada yada, the minister may prohibit a telecommunications service provider from providing any service to any specified person. The order may also include a provision prohibiting the disclosure of its existence, or some or all of its contents, by any person. The minister may require any person to provide to the minister or any person designated by the minister within any time and subject to any conditions that the minister may specify any information that the minister believes on reasonable grounds is relevant for the purpose of making, amending, or revoking an order under section blah blah blah, or a regulation under paragraph blah blah blah. Maybe the language isn't that vague, actually. This sounds pretty bad. I like the way it says stuff like, you know, any reasonable grounds for blah blah blah. It's like, I think we're kind of beyond the level of reason. Now, does that mean that me making this video means that I'll be depersoned by the Canadian government and you'll never hear from me again as I get whisked away off into a re-education camp? Maybe. I mean, most likely not. That sounds a bit like a comedy far-fetched scenario, but I don't know, man. The whole world is a bit of a far-fetched comedy scenario at this point. And not to be outdone by Bill C-8, Bill C-9 is also creeping up from behind. Over 1 million Canadian posts have been screened by CASM, searching for hate crimes. Amazingly, no hate speech against white people or Christians are listed in their summary. Canadian taxpayers paid for this mass surveillance from an organization that is not even inside Canada. I like that one of the things that's listed under key narratives here, so one of the main things they're, you know, looking out for in terms of hate speech and violent extremism and whatnot is anti-Trudeau narratives. So is there like a time frame, like a statute of limitations in reverse maybe on when this is, you know, considered? Because I know a lot of people that have a lot to say about the way the country used to be run. But I guess if you criticize the way the country's run now it's a problem. Yeah, you know, the Canadian government was absolutely beyond the pale of disgusting when they did all those residential schools. Anyways, now I'm sure we can trust him. Now, I mean, it's of course one of the oldest tricks in the book to just be like, oh, but it's not gonna get anybody who's got good intentions. It's just meant to catch people that are evil, hateful bigots and extremists. If September 10th didn't prove to everybody that you can't trust what these people define as a hateful bigot extremist, then you know, hopefully something will eventually. Surely the people who've been calling everybody Nazis on the internet for the last 10 years, yeah, they can be trusted to define what hate means. Section 319 of Bill C-9 redefines hatred as an emotion of detestation or vilification. How dare you filthy, unwashed freak masses have any kind of emotions about the broad and sweeping changes we're making to the foundation of our entire country? Fucking chuds, I swear. Nobody's ever gonna come along with a bill that's literally just called the Silence Everyone Who Disagrees With Me Act. But, you know, historically when things like that do come into existence, it's usually cushioned in language like this. But of course, you're never really gonna know just what depths they're sinking to by watching the Canadian news. Generally speaking, in Canada, we have three main news networks, I guess you could say. It's CBC, CTV, and Global. CTV and Global, not so bad, still pretty bad, and still they aren't gonna tell you what's really going on. But the disgusting level of fucking propaganda that's present on CBC is something to truly behold. The entire country could be actively burning down as if it isn't already, and CBC will go out there and their top news story of the day will be Trump and his evil tariffs, followed swiftly along by some special interest thing about how you should feel bad for the crimes of your ancestors. The CBC is mostly just interested in feel-good puff pieces to pretend that everything's okay. When they do feel like reporting on real news, they tend to spin it in a way that doesn't exactly give all the facts. You know, if you watch the CBC long enough, you will just be bludgeoned over the fucking head with this narrative that all of our woes in this country are all due to Donald Trump and his tariffs, and certainly could have nothing to do with any of the mismanagement of our own government. You know, they pay their lip service, they have some soundbite from Pierre Poilievre or whatever, the conservative opposition guy, but, you know, for the most part, when it comes to actually criticizing things that are wrong with this country, you know, they seem to not really want to take much of a stance on that. But when it comes to not so subtly spreading narratives about how our new Prime Minister and Ghislaine Maxwell's best friend, Mark Carney, is actually doing amazing things for this country, well, they have quite a lot to report on when it comes to that.
Prime Minister Mark Carney has a jam-packed schedule in London today, meeting with business and political leaders, all part of a push to attract investment and bolster Canada's ties with other countries amid tensions with the United States.
Now, while in the UK, I've met with business and investment leaders to discuss new economic opportunities and partnerships as we look to attract capital to Canada and to empower Canadian workers with new high-quality careers.
Oh yeah, all sorts of new capital coming to Canada. Millions of them every year at this point.
My message to business leaders here in New York, throughout the world, is we have what the world wants.
Well, judging by the way many nations across the world seem to be going right now, I guess he's right about that. Might not be what the citizens of those countries actually want, but you know, we have what the world wants. How happy am I as a guy who lives here that I'm making some guy over in fucking Uzbekistan real happy right now? We got what the world wants, people. And the thing is, it's really easy to look at it and be like, well, just vote for the other guys next time. First of all, even if I wanted to, one vote's not gonna make much of a difference when the whole country's been brainwashed by the CBC. But second of all of our politicians are a clusterfuck of failure and lead poisoning. I mean, they're all pretty bad, but I will say the current parliament is gotta be some of the most incompetent, ill-suited to power people that I've ever seen in my... Oh, that's the reason. I mean, these people can't figure out how to drive a car, let alone run a country. Are you fucking kidding me? Now, speaking of the old maids who are in charge of our country, now it's time for the video to take a dark turn. I know it was already pretty dark before when we were discussing the pooping, but, you know, in a different and more sad way. MAID, or Medical Assistance in Dying, is a program where if you're sick enough, or decide you're sick enough, or maybe you're poor and you don't want to have to deal with living in Canada anymore, you could just apply to be lethally injected by the government. Yeah, it's miserably dark and horrible, everybody. And I mean, look, obviously there's some people out there that have chronic illnesses. Maybe you're like 85 and everything hurts. You know, sure, maybe you might want to have the ability to do such a thing. Well, when you look into MAID, you start to notice some things that are a little bit depressing about it. 14% of Quebec's organ donors in 2022 were people who chose medically assisted death. Wow, I feel like I'm trapped inside of a Philip K. Dick novel or something. This is horrifying. Canada performing more organ transplants from MAID donors than any country in the world. Let that be a lesson to you, Canadian kids. Don't ever let anyone tell you that Canada doesn't lead the world in something. We're the leading world's exporters in apologies, white guilt, and people killing themselves. MAID for children and teens. A special committee of MPs and senators studying MAID has recommended allowing MAID for mature minors. Whoa, hold on, now wait, hang on. First of all, the only other time I've ever heard anybody ever refer to the fucking phrase mature minors is pedophiles on the internet. A mature minor is a child or teen who is deemed capable of making a decision for MAID. This would essentially remove the minimum age of eligibility. The committee also suggested parents may not be consulted and wouldn't need to consent to their child's death via MAID. Children are uniquely vulnerable. Canada's first priority must be to provide high-quality medical care for children. High-quality death for children. That's what Canada's all about, apparently. We're really gung-ho on being the best in the world at killing children without their parents' consent. Holy fucking shit! You know, I knew that this part of the video was coming. I was aware of all of this, and just reading it. Holy shit! Okay, my framing for the entire time that I've just been recording has been completely fucked, but don't worry, I fixed it now, so it didn't happen. CBC is reporting that it never happened, and you're wrong for thinking that it did. Some of Canada's latest MAID recipients, an obese woman and a grieving widower. Oh yeah, the Canadian government's able to get away with it, but if I say we should kill the fatties, then it's a problem, alright. RCMP called to investigate multiple cases of veterans being offered medically assisted death. 4, perhaps even 5 Canadian military veterans were given the option of medically assisted death MAID by a now suspended Veterans Affairs Canada caseworker. Wow, the list of people that the Canadian government seems to want to get rid of is really increasing. A doctor who performs euthanasia in Canada has described the experience of ending the life of a man dressed as a clown as wonderful. Holy fucking shit, Clown World doesn't even begin to fucking describe it anymore. That's just tasteless. In her book on assisted suicide, Dr. Stephanie Green, who has ended the lives of more than 300 people by euthanasia, recounted one incident where she euthanized a man dressed as a clown. Green described how on the day she euthanized the man, he excused himself to go to the washroom and returned wearing a full clown suit, tie-dyed pants and t-shirt, a colorful wig, and a red nose. He told me he hadn't been sure if he was going to use the nose or not, but in the end he decided to go for it. I asked him why he'd chosen to wear the clown suit on this day, and he told me he wanted to go out laughing. He figured this was his best bet. This is just so far beyond. I can't make this funny. This guy's in a clown suit, and I can't make this funny. Last year, 4.1% of all deaths in Canada were due to MAID, medical assistance in dying, according to the country's health ministry. This amounts to a total of 13,241 people who died under Canada's MAID program in 2022, marking a 31% rise on the previous year. Oh, God only knows what the fuck it is now in 2025. This doctor has helped more than 400 patients die. A judge just blocked one of her cases. At 72, Dr. Ellen Weeb Weeb? Her name's Weeb?
Fred Fox? Fred Fox! Oh my God, Fred Fox!
A civil claim alleges Weeb approved the woman's request for MAID after a single Zoom meeting and without consulting her doctors. Weeb declined to comment when contacted by National Post. For Weeb, medical assistance in dying is incredibly rewarding work. She hasn't faced nearly the same sort of stigma she once faced as an abortion provider. I'm sorry, when your career trajectory goes from abortion provider to medically assisted killer, did we just make it legal for people to become serial killers in Canada? What is this? And says that while she and her MAID colleagues all work within the law, she's also not as conservative as some. Take that, chuds, get triggered. What she isn't prepared to share publicly is how often she has administered a fatal substance upon a patient's request. I know the exact number, the Vancouver doctor said, but I don't want to do that, no. It's become a weird thing. People talking about their numbers or criticizing people who talk about their numbers. Hundreds is good, she said. About 430 as of May 2022 alone, as she then testified before a special parliamentary committee on medical assistance in dying, or MAID. In addition to her MAID work, Weeb runs a contraception and medical abortion clinic in Vancouver. She's one of the most prominent and prolific providers of assisted dying in Canada, the pro-choice doctor providing peaceful deaths, Canada's de facto ambassador for the right to die. Ambassador for the right to die? Is this like, what? Did the world end in 2012 and this is all just kind of like the fever dream at the end of everything? This is like when a TV series goes on past its prime and just wacky shit, aliens start happening and shit like that. This shouldn't be reality, but apparently it is. It's hard to even be in the same room as somebody who's suffering so severely. But then, I get to end that suffering. Alright, well, I feel like a can of smash assholes after that one. Jesus Christ. Jesus God Christ. Oh dear God, holy Christ in heaven, holy fuck Christ, oh good God. Ah! Christ God, ah! Canadian woman who waited 10 weeks for cancer treatment is euthanized instead. 67-year-old grandmother Samia Saikali opted for a lethal jab after waiting 10 weeks to see an oncologist for for her aggressive cancer. Oh, that's just so great. Remember that when people talk about how wonderful it is to have socialized medicine. I mean, I wouldn't want to have to deal with health insurance either, but Jesus fuck Christ, good God. Well, that entire segment just wiped me out. What an utterly miserable nightmare. I can't believe this is the real country that I live in. And meanwhile, the government and the news just wants to spread bullshit, sloganeering, and ideological divisive nonsense to the unsuspecting person who doesn't know much about MAID or about any of the stuff we've been talking about in this video. Just like nothing is wrong, as if we're like a real country or something. Let's get into some of that ideological, divisive, sloganeering bullshit now, why don't we? You know, we need a nice pick-me-up from MAID, so let's talk about how all the children are being propagandized to from the age of fucking 5 or whatever, which is comparatively a light and breezy topic. So here we have some grade 6 homework about visible and invisible minorities. Visible minorities. Race, gender identity, and then that just swoops down into some other shit. I guess. I think the word ability is crossed out, and then that's down there on the line for some reason. I guess like it's halfway visible and invisible. Holy fucking shit, can you teach these kids how to speak first before you hammer their heads with this fucking nonsense? Invisible minorities, family structure, sexual orientation, age, language, class, occupation. I'm sorry, there's just something so funny to me about a person misspelling the word language. Here we have some visible versus invisible minorities. Visible: gender, language, education, occupation, class, age, ability, geographic, religion, family, race, sexual orientation with a little sus emote. Can you just fail any kid who uses emojis in his homework? But invisible minorities appear to include half of the same fucking things as the other ones, so, you know, it's amazing. The kids don't know how to fucking speak or spell or type or write, but they also don't seem to be getting much of a fucking clue as to what any of this stupid nonsense means either. You'd think you get them early enough with the propaganda and you can really get them to believe it, but no, I don't even think they know what the fuck they're supposed to be putting down in these categories. Finally, we get a kid here who can spell, oh wait, no, sexual orientation. And I probably wouldn't be making fun of, you know, the literacy of fucking 6th graders if they were actually being taught literacy instead of this fucking trash. Oh my god, what is this fucking, did your paper explode? Holy shit! So here we have an email sent out to parents in Quebec about Truth and Reconciliation Day. It's a native thing, you know, feel bad about things your fucking great-grandfather may or may not have done, that kind of thing. It happened recently, and this is a pretty recent thing. So a Quebec teacher sent out this email to parents, as translated by this Twitter user here. I encourage you to speak to your child about Truth and Reconciliation Day. I will sum it up very simply. Whites did not make very good choices regarding Indigenous people. Your child is invited to wear orange. This whole video is just making me depressed now. It wasn't so bad when we were talking about Indians pooping in Starbucks. So here is grade 2 and 3 kids in Burnaby, BC, explaining why they have to wear the stupid fucking orange shirts that are essentially the fashion equivalent of putting all the tags and fucking flags in your bio. Why do we wear orange shirts? We wear orange shirts because we need to remember the mistakes we made. The mistakes we made. Now, do you think that this is referring to, like, the mistakes that, I don't know, the Asian kids made in school? Do you think it's referring to the mistakes that the Middle Eastern kids made in that school? Or do you think it's referring to the mistakes that the whites made? You know, the little kids that are at this school right now, the mistakes that they made. Fucking little Timmy killing all of those native kids like 100 years ago or whatever. How could you be so heartless? How could you be so cruel? Let's just get all the kids feeling nice and guilty about things that they never fucking did. That's great. Here we have a view inside of your average school in Canada right now, and I think if you show this image to somebody and they look at you and say, well, what's wrong with that? That's how you know that they're too far gone to ever be saved from the cult. Now, I remember a couple years ago when I passed by this school that was near me. I live in Toronto, and I passed by this school. I think it was a high school, not exactly sure. Might have been elementary. But I remember finding it very notable that in the month of not June, not that that would even make this make a whole bunch more sense, but in the month of not June, the school featured 2 flags flying proudly in front of it at full mast. The Canadian flag was one, and I'll leave it to you in the comments to figure out what the other cool flag was that was flying right next to the Canada flag. Frankly, we should just be lucky that they had the fucking Canada flag flying at all. Toronto teacher under investigation after allegedly showing video related to Charlie Kirk's shooting. Students in grades 5 and 6. So grades 5 and 6, that's like what, 10 and 11-year-olds? Were shown the video once after asking the teacher about a recent tragic event in the United States. So this fucking psychopath showed a gore video, essentially a live leak video of a man being shot in the neck in front of his family. Bunch of 10-year-olds and 11-year-olds just sitting there prime looking at the fucking screen. Wow, my teacher's cool. She shows us gore videos in my class. But don't worry, guys. The teacher that showed a man dying to a bunch of children at school was placed on temporary leave at the school, so they won't be doing that again for at least another couple weeks or so. I'm filled with an emotion that I can't describe. It's almost like detestation or vilification. No, I'm not hate speeching anyone. No. I like this current new regime. It's a great regime, and certainly nothing bad has happened as a result of it. Landing in an inclusive space. How do we land in a 2S LGBTQ plus inclusive space? C. Visible signs of inclusion, i.e. posters, pride flags, stickers, crosswalks. Queer identities included beyond Pride Month. 2S LGBTQ plus leadership and role models, symbols, and icons. Here, the use of your pronouns and inclusive terms like folks, humans. Why is that so fucking disgusting to me? Humans. Don't call me a human, you weird, freaky space robots. Get away from me. The use of evolving terms, labels, etc. Talk about 2S LGBTQ plus role models issues, news, etc. The voices of 2S LGBTQ plus people. Act. Make and hold space in the work you do. Connect with your GSAs for all school activities and lessons. Plan inclusive learning all year. Respond to the use of stereotypes and harmful language. Learn to consider and include 2S LGBTQ plus perspectives. Demonstrate curiosity about historical experiences and contemporary realities. About 2S LGBTQ plus people around you. Now, for the Americans and people not in the know of Canada's weird bullshit, you might be wondering just what 2S is in this alphabet soup of shit. 2S refers to the native thing where you think you can be 2 people in the same body or something. Apparently that's a gender. Or a sexuality? I don't know, but I know that there was a character in the TV show Legion who was like that, so apparently X-Men are part of the LGBTQ now. That's pretty great. By the way, this is apparently material from a teacher training session called Learning to Queer the Classroom.
The flag behind me seems to really trigger a lot of snowflakes. And yes, I am your worst nightmare.
You know, I feel annoyed looking at this guy, but I also kind of don't want to get on his bad side. He kind of looks like he's got bodies under the fucking floorboards. I got wiring loose inside my head. I got books that I never ever read.
So let's get one thing clear. If you have a problem that I have this flag in my classroom, stop following me right now. Just block me. Or better yet, leave a comment so I know who I can block. Because I will never stop supporting the rights of all individuals to be loved for who they are.
All individuals, huh? What about people that have a slight disagreement with your method of loving everyone? I guess those people can fucking die in a ditch, right?
And yes, I do teach about stuff like this in my classroom. Thank you for asking. I teach about Marxism. I teach about socialism. I teach about trans rights. I teach about LGBTQ history. I teach about Black history. I teach about the racial history of our country and the genocide that we've inflicted upon Indigenous people.
You know, I really hope this one's fake. I mean, like, I gotta be real. There's a chance that plenty of the things I've looked at today could hypothetically be fabricated or fake. But it's one of those things where it's like, you know, if even one of them is real, I think I've made my point. This one better be fake. This one has to be fake. This is too incensing and triggering for me as a snowflake. I do feel represented by him saying snowflake. You know, that's the thing that the chuds say, so he's really owning those chuds.
I teach about redlining and Africville and the Starlight Tours. I teach about the history of Sir John A. Macdonald. I teach about wealth inequality in Canada and the concentration of wealth in the 1%. I talk about the prevalence of LGBTQ and trans people in millennial and Gen Z generations and compare it to left-handedness.
He compares trans people to left-handedness. Well, that explains a lot.
I teach about intersectionality. I teach about the Polytechnic Massacre. I teach about the 60s scoop.
So does this guy teach anything that's like real school stuff or just this like nonsense that he learned from Blue Sky and ContraPoints?
And do you want to know why I teach about these things? Because they are important and because they are related to the curriculum.
What's the fucking curriculum? How to be a good little carny voter?
I do not push anything on my students. All I do is show them the world that we live in. The one thing I could be argued of pushing on my students, if anything, is that we should all be loved and respected for who we are.
Didn't you just say you teach them Marxism, you weird little...
And because of the courses that I teach, all of this can be connected to curriculum. But beyond that, in Ontario, under the Education Act, teachers essentially have the right to teach whatever they think is beneficial to their students.
So teachers in Ontario can apparently just teach kids whatever the fuck they feel like. Apparently, if I became a teacher, I could just go in there and I guess I could just make shit up, right? Not to say that this guy is necessarily making shit up. You know, I'm sure he believes all the things he's saying are real. Well, okay, I'm not actually that sure of that, but it kind of sounds like I could pretty much just go in there and talk about how I lost my arm fighting Osama bin Laden and how bees are actually a drink.
There is obviously a boundary to that, but what I talk about in my classroom, what I do in my classroom, will not break any of the rules.
Well, it fucking sounds like there are no rules, so I guess that's very convenient for you, being a...
Just because you're a triggered snowflake who can't handle gay people existing does not mean that what I am doing is by any means wrong.
You know, I always love how dishonest people like this actually are, you know? It's almost as if you know that you can't argue from a position of honesty and have anybody side with you who's not also insane. So you have to just make it into something about, oh, they just hate that gay people exist. When that's like the fucking least of your problems. It's like, I don't know, I feel like if you actually had a great leg to stand on with any of this shit being a good thing to teach children, you know, you could probably represent it honestly, right? Instead of just like misrepresenting it to make it seem like it's totally reasonable. Very dishonest people. You know, this is what I've come to learn. You watch enough breadtube videos, or even just talk to enough turbo extreme leftists, and eventually you'll realize that nobody who's this extreme can actually come at this honestly. You know, it's a lot of posturing about being the fucking people that have all the right answers, and we're the intelligent, smart, scientific ones, and you're all the uneducated, stupid chuds. I would be willing to accept that and side with that a little bit more if it weren't for the fact that you people always consistently demonstrate how dishonest you actually are.
It just means that you're an antiquated dinosaur, and sooner or later your children will think to themselves, why does my parent think that way? Why does my parent act that way? Why does my parent talk that way?
So this guy does get slightly honest in admitting that his whole goal of doing this sort of shit is to spread pointless division and make people hate their parents. That's good. That's good stuff. I'm sure there's nothing wrong with that.
So, Wayne Higgs and Bill Hogan did it. Children under the age of 16 in New Brunswick are going to be outed to their parents if they choose to change their pronouns in school.
Not the pronouns!
I'm currently working my way to become a teacher. I only have 2 years left of school.
Oh, please, by all means, don't. I'm gonna cut this one off a little bit early because it's not all that interesting. Suffice it to say, it's a vagina crying for 2 minutes about pronouns or something. Can this be the new pronouns guy? Pronouns gal. Hey. Now, next up, I'd like to talk a little bit about some of our overseas spending that we've been engaged in recently. But before we get to the overseas spending, we should really talk about some of the domestic spending that's been going on. Cause boy, some of that's retarded too. Canada's difference makers. New ideas, new energy, new potential. New Canadians make all the difference. Yeah, I mean, this lady here looks like she could cause some kind of fucking earthquake if she stomps around too much in BC. You guys better be careful. Seen the posters? For centuries, immigrants have helped Canada overcome its greatest challenges. We do well to remember that before blaming immigrants for all that ails us. And you'll see here some cool posters that have been made to, further this campaign. Here you have racist, gormless depictions of white people because that's the thing that our government's funding now. Decrying Irish people, decrying Ukrainians. And hey, it's true. Back in 1847 and 1902, I'm sure there weren't quite as many people that were coming to this country just to make money to send back to their 400 family members in Senegal. But that's the reality of what a lot of this looks like now, actually, so it would be probably a good thing if they would, represent it as such. And here we are in Hamilton 2025. Immigrants are clogging up the ER, especially the nurses. I just find it really funny that the Canadian government apparently spent money on making this depiction of dumbass, idiot white people mouth breathers. I'm sorry, is this one guy's problem that he got his hand stuck in a Pringles can? Alright, I mean, that's a little bit funny, honestly. When driven people from around the world bet their dreams on Canada, we all win big. Alright, but how long does it take for us all to start winning big? Do we have a time estimate on that? How many gallons of shit in a Starbucks do we have to accept before we start winning big? Do you weigh the shit by gallons? I guess it depends on the viscosity of it. Future Canadians are Canada's future. Immigration isn't just about filling jobs or getting bigger. It's about talented people dedicating their lives to making Canada ever more extraordinary for all of us. Immigrants aren't just different, they make all the difference for Canada. Note that it doesn't say anything in this paragraph about that being a good difference, I'm just saying. I do like this part here though, the Canoe Access Pass. Canoe is the ultimate welcome experience, providing newcomers with free entry to over 2,000 of Canada's best culture and nature experiences, plus incredible deals on concerts, sports, travel, and so much more. Now this is funny for a few reasons to me because, for one, we have to pretend that everybody that's coming to Canada is like a happy, smiling family. And not like 40,000 shifty guys on phones with their eyes darting back and forward in a Walmart. It would be probably inconvenient if you portrayed it a little more realistically in that way. But secondly, we're returning to this thing where, hey, come to Canada and you'll get a bunch of fucking shit that the people who are from here don't get access to. Bunch of discounts and free shit. It's gonna be so great for you. Yeah, I'm sure that's not gonna lead to any kind of resentment whatsoever, just like the fucking free mortgages for people that just got here. Let's just give them a bunch of other shit too that people that are actually from Canada have no access to. That's great. Another element that's kind of funny is, again, the dishonesty of it. I mean, for sure, I'm sure some of the people that are coming to Canada are happy, smiling families with kids, and they really do want to integrate with the country and the culture, and they want to be a part of this fine tapestry of people that we call Canada. And that's great. More power to you, Quan. But let's be honest here. How many of the people that are coming to Canada have any respect for Canada or the people that live here? And I mean it, you see this fucking joke shit with Justin Trudeau kneeling and praying in a turban or whatever. How many people are coming to Canada because they're just like, yeah, these fucking rubes are giving so much shit to me, I don't even gotta do anything. But, that's enough of that website. I'm sure it has plenty more cool information about how great immigrants are and how anybody who has any problem with the current state of things is just an uneducated retard. Let's take a look at the Century Initiative, a thing that our fine Prime Minister and best friend to Ghislaine Maxwell supports wholeheartedly. So, guys, I hate to inform you of this, but Canada is at a crossroads. Not the one you're thinking of, Chud. You see, we're at a crossroads because Granny Mildred here is aging and birth rates are at historic lows. Labor shortages are growing in essential sectors. Rural communities are shrinking while housing and affordability pressures grow. Global competition is accelerating and geopolitical uncertainty is on the rise. Okay, so point by point here. Point one, there's still thousands of young Canadians lined up around the block at the fucking CNE looking for jobs. Oh, those poor, sweet, idiot fools thinking that they're gonna get a fucking job at Tim Hortons. Secondly, birth rates are at historic lows. I'm sure there's no rhetoric that's responsible for that. I'm sure poisoning the genders to fight each other and get all confused with fucking propaganda nonsense for the last decade has had no impact on any of that. Number two, labor shortages are growing in essential sectors. I mean, I don't know much about essential sectors, but I know that when you're a fucking Canadian struggling and looking for a job, you're not gonna have a fucking good time of finding one. I don't know, maybe we need more air traffic controllers. But we probably also need more people to be able to feed their fucking families with a low-income job at a gas station or something, right? Good luck with that. Point three, rural communities are shrinking while housing and affordability pressures grow. Both of these are problems caused by the government. And number four, yes, geopolitical uncertainty is on the rise, which is why none of this is a good idea. But don't worry, guys, the Sentry Initiative is protecting Canada's future and sovereignty. Canada's future prosperity and independence are not guaranteed. In a rapidly changing world, our sovereignty is increasingly shaped by global forces. Demographic pressures, trade disruptions, rising disinformation, and shifts in political oh, for fuck's sakes, just say Trump! Is anyone really dumb enough to look at this and pretend that it has anything at all to do with regular people of Canada and not the fucking globally rich elite? Like, I'm sorry to break this to you turbo liberals that are mad at me right now, but I gotta tell ya, you've pretty much been sold a lie by the 1%. The country is full of useful idiots for rich billionaires who are trying to line their fucking pockets by ruining your life. And you all clap about it and say that it's our strength. I don't know, man. Are we all really supposed to just trust the government now? Like everything's fine? Oh yeah, I'm sure the government wouldn't lie to us about any of this. I'm sure the government is being completely transparent about their wishes for all of this. How dumb do you really need to be to think that? Especially when a lot of the people are still pissed off about the government doing such and such thing 100 years ago. Oh yeah, I'm sure now they're less evil. So finally, we must end off with a segment about overseas spending and some of the things that Canadian tax dollars have been sent to. So here we have $8.2 million being sent to Vietnam for gender just rice. I gotta say, I've never once heard the term gender just in my entire 30 years of life, let alone applied to rice, but I guess you learn new shit every day in this wonderful country. Here you have nearly $1 billion being spent on abortions around the world. Now, I don't really want to get into the abortion issue in this already hot topic and controversial video, but I will say this feels like a violation of the Prime Directive. Why don't you just let Ethiopia deal with its own fucking children and maybe get some homeless people out of tent cities in Canada? How about that? Revealed, Trudeau spent $11 billion on overseas gender programs during his tenure. Man, our country's economy is really rapidly becoming like that one drill tweet. Mark Carney says Canada is dedicating over $340 million in humanitarian aid to Gaza. Oh, well, that's good. I mean, at least they're supporting Palestine with your tax dollars. Since October 7th, Canada has exported $28.5 million in military aid to the illegal Israeli occupation, enabling the genocide of 2.3 million Palestinians inhumanely trapped in Gaza. 40+ Canadian weapon manufacturers are complicit, funded by taxpayers. Ooh, that's not so good, uh-oh. Canada has announced that they will give away Canadian taxpayer money to Palestinians in lump sums consisting of $3,000 per adult and $1,500 per child. Canadians currently cannot afford heat to power their homes in the winter or groceries to feed their children, but hey, they're at least funding Palestinians. Ontario just pledged $650,000 to Zionist groups, including CIJA, which regurgitates the racist words of Israeli leaders. Oh man, so we're really giving a lot of money to a lot of fucking people here, aren't we? Oh, that's good, that's good. Canada's recognition of Palestine, why it matters, and what comes next. Okay, well come on people, Canada's recognizing Palestine now. I mean, that's gotta mean something. Canada breaks promise on arms to Israel by allowing $78.8 million contract for artillery propellants. What do they have on you, Carney? Does BB have a video of Mark Carney snorting cocaine off a dead toddler or something? What is this? Well, this video has gone overly long, and there's frankly new insane shit to add to it every day. As of today, Ontario is banning a whole bunch more fucking alcohol. We've basically got a new prohibition happening. And no, it's not American alcohol. We already got rid of American alcohol because of the tariff war. Let's say that's the reason. No, it's just international alcohol, some Canadian shit even. I kind of think Doug Ford's just got a stick up his ass and is taking it out on the whole booze industry. So, you know, pretty much every day there's some new horrifying shit that makes me think about taking Maid for myself. But I'll leave you all with a hopeful note, perhaps, which is just simply that I don't believe regular people in Canada want this. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of walking propaganda machines and useful idiots wearing sandwich boards to support the 1%. But your average individual, your average Canadian, I think senses that something is wrong. There is, as they say, a disturbance in the force. I think more and more people are growing unhappy with what's going on, angry with what's going on, and I don't think they can silence all of us. But you might want to archive this video just in case it mysteriously goes missing for any reason. Take it easy, people. Until next time, when I come back to complain about something else. Expect more videos like this. Go fuck yourself.
Well, all 5 of the people who managed to not get filtered by any of the contents in this video, thank you for watching all the way to the end. I hope you enjoyed. I've been meaning to make something kind of like this for a while, and I'm pretty proud of the results, I have to say. Expect more things like this in the future. Hey, somebody's gotta eventually rant on Modern Family Guy. No one else is doing it now. If you enjoyed what you saw here today, be sure to give me a like and a subscribe and a comment. If you hated what you saw here today, be sure to give me a comment. You know, I appreciate that too. Big thanks as usual to my $20 and up excellent dudes on Patreon. Iron, Jolie Doomed, Tapeface YT, Dunk, Darth, Viper Mutt, Hitori Senji, Lolord, Sid Static, and thank you for changing your name from X-Arc to Archie Arch. Now you're just making fun of me. And my top boy, my new top boy, CB. Thank you very much. I endeavored to please you all. Not like that. Get your head out of the gutter. And yeah, that'll about do it, folks. I hope you had a good time today. I don't know how you could have, really, but I hope you did. And penis.